Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to House of Footy. It's your boy Ray, and with me, I've got a full house. Welcome tonight, Mac
Good evening.
and Gio.
What is good, everyone?
We are still in an international break, so we are gonna continue changing things up a little bit. Today, we're gonna give you guys a tier list or our predictions for the English national team for the upcoming Euros competition. Before we get into it, don't forget to follow us on our social medias, both on X and Instagram. Our handle is at houseup_footy. Also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to us. We are on both Spotify and YouTube. And lastly, feel free to get in touch with us via email. We love hearing from you guys and we want you guys getting involved. Our email is houseoffooty@hotmail.com. But yeah, I'm gonna toss it to Mac now, who's gonna spearhead the discussion. So Mac, go ahead.
Okay, so it's very simple. And what you'll see on your screen if you're watching us on YouTube, but if you're listening to us on Spotify, I'm going to break it down into we're kind of tearing them up into five different categories. At the top being key player. So those are who we anticipate for England, the Three Lions, to be able to be a key player when we arrive in Germany for the Euros in 2024. The second category being on the plane. They'll get on the plane, they'll play, they have a fair shakes. They may start, they may not. We're not too certain, but at the very least, they're in all likelihood going to be on the plane. The third spot is the bubble spot, and that's if they may make it, they may not, but we don't know, and it's kind of a little bit iffy. There are a couple of players that I think fit nicely into that category, so that's where they are. The fourth tier, it's kind of a muddle between two different ideas. Either they're a last resort, break glass if scenario type of situation, or a future option, a player that may not be on the kind of potentially on the plane right now, may not be going to the Euros in 2024, but over the next couple rounds of international competitions may eventually end up seeing themselves play in those bigger competitions, but they're not there yet. So either of those categories. And lastly is the stop showing up. We don't want to see you. You shouldn't be wearing the shirt anymore. We're done and we're tired of it. And those are the five categories that we're breaking them down into. In addition, just to give an idea, for Euros 2024, there's only going to be 23 players on the plane. So we're going to cap ourselves. I think we have 40 different players. We're capping ourselves at 23 in terms of a combination between key players and on the plane. We can't go over 23 players for the combined both of those because there isn't that much space on the plane. Realistically, though, we're going to try to keep Will under because, in all likelihood, we'll probably have some players that are on the bubble spot that may shift over to eventually end up just seeing themselves on the plane, depending on how form goes and everything of that ilk. We are also, of course, of taking account in terms of injuries and suspensions, stuff of that ilk, and that may impact. But of course, we're anticipating some people to come back from injuries and maybe have a better run of form towards the end of the season. So we're going to take that into account as well. And the lastly being is these are our predictions of what Southgate would do. Not necessarily 100% what we would buy in, and if we were Southgate, the choice that we would make, but we're kind of having a crystal ball and seeing, okay, this is depending on what happens for the rest of the season, this is what we think Southgate would do. I guess before we get started, gents, any questions, comments, concerns?
No?
Nope.
Fair enough. So let's dive right in. I think the easiest way to start this off is with the keepers. So right now we have four different keepers listed here for England. I think they're fairly, for me, it's fairly simple where each of them are going to go. So the four keepers we have are Jordan Pickford, we have Nick Pope, we have Aaron Ramsdale, and then we have James Trafford, Burnley keeper. Uh, Gents, quick thoughts. What do you think is going to happen with those positions? Ray, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be Jordan Pickford and Nick Pope as I think the main two keepers, one and two, essentially. I don't expect Trafford to make the squad. Unfortunately for him, it might be a little too early. I think he just had a good season with the under 21s. But definitely Ramsdale should be a shout for potentially if things go poorly, if there's an injury for one of those two keepers, that being Pickford and Pope, then Ramsdale I think would move up. But his current club situation not looking great in terms of playing minutes, and so that's makes it an easy decision. Those two keepers playing week in week out should realistically get that chance. And Pickford, of course, being the main number one, I think it's pretty settled that he will be the starting keeper in the tournament.
Agreed. Agreed. I think to add to that is just um, you know, I get it. Pickford's been your backstop leader type player for a very long time, but I think as a sheer ball stopper, which I think England will suffer a lot of shots from outside the box. I think Nick Pope is a better shot stopper subjectively than say a Jordan Pickford is. Jordan Pickford does bring that leadership that say Nick Pope can't, but it's going to be very interesting to see who he actually decides who is the number one keeper. Because in my eyes, I think Nick Pope is the better keeper. When you check off, the skills you want from a keeper, I think he meets a lot more than say a Jordan Pickford does, who is slightly undersized, as we've always talked about. But yeah, that will come in. That won't play too much into the decision because I think Southgate really has his favorites.
That's fair. I'm in general agreement with the both of you. I think if there is no injury to Jordan Pickford, he will be starting in Euros 2024 for England. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's never let England down. Southgate is not going to kind of dispose of him now. In terms of who the second option was going into the season, I think there was competition potentially for Aaron Ramsdale if that the David Raya signing did not happen. He was starting for Arsenal. They were playing well. He was having a good season. Maybe he could have knocked on the door. But given that it seems like the window's closed, he's kind of cemented himself as kind of the second option for Mikel Arteta. I think that kind of a situation kind of decides itself, and Pickford's going to be the guy. Pope, I think, again, I would agree with you, Drew, 100%. The best individual shot stopper, but the worst keeper with his feet. And that, for Southgate, is probably one of the more important factors when you're looking to be able to play out the back for England. And I think that's more so why that, even though Pope is going to go, he still won't even be the second option, because that's the worst part of his game by a wide margin. And I'll say he's one of the worst keepers for England with that ability. Trafford, again, just on there, so we didn't have, because we all know who the three keepers are going for to Euros. There's no doubt about that. But Trafford, again, maybe down the road, young keeper playing for Burnley. Obviously, he's going to get a lot of work this season, but maybe in 2 years or 4 years, the next international cup competition cycle, he may be, as I said, knocking on the door. So I think, just correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys will be comfortable with Pickford, key player, because he's going to start every single game unless something happens. Ramsdale, I think Pope, both on the plane, and James Trafford as last resort / future option. You guys on board with that to start off?
Yes.
I'm good with that. Is it always three keepers that are involved with the squad?
You could have
Typically?
more, but generally it's always three.
Okay. Yeah, then I'm okay with that.
Okay, gotcha. We're on the same page there. Perfect. So that's a good litmus test to be able to get us started. But now let's move on to something a little bit. Would you guys want to knock out, I guess, who we think like the couple 2, 3 at the top for sure, and then move on? I think that might make the most sense. No?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do
Okay.
that.
So
Just put
quickly,
Kane and Bellingham up there.
Kane. That's
Kane
going
and
to be
Bellingham.
Kane and
That's a
Bellingham. The
lock.
question is, who would you have at the very, very top, Kane or Bellingham, as the most important England player going into the next tournament? Would you say?
I think it has to be Kane.
I would agree.
I think England does typically. I mean, when it comes down to it, it's goal scoring. That they don't really outscore teams by a lot. Yes, there are a couple of World Cup games where they kind of beat up on a weaker team, but in terms of key games, I think they've been struggling to score a little much. Yes, Bellingham can score and create, but I think you need Kane to be on top of the game because again, if Kane decides to drop deeper in the midfield, he can also do what Jude does too. So it has to be Kane.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic between the both of them play, because as we've seen Jude express himself at Real Madrid, that very much is in a spot that is an exact copy of what Harry Kane can do. They're not dissimilar in terms of the type of, I'll say, run into the box that they want to make, the abilities to be able to link play. Obviously, I would say they each individually have things that they're better at, but I think that they play similar in similar positions on the pitch. So it'll be interesting to see how the chemistry may form, to see if one in all likelihood, Jude, I think, would have to adjust his game more for his teammates. So I do agree. That's why I think Kane, being the captain, being the leader of the team, I think that he, in all likelihood, has to be the best player for England to play well. But there is, of course, the other situation where I think that Jude could be the best player on the team for this tournament, and England can still succeed very, very well. Okay, perfect. So now let's move on to, I guess, my favorite center back on the list, and I think that's going to be guaranteed. I think it's, if you were to ask who's in the starting back four for England, I think there's one player that we can 100% lock in into a starting position. I think that's fair. And for me, that's John Stones. Would you both agree with that, having him up there on key as a key player?
Not Harry Maguire.
No, okay. I'm saying if let's be real here, okay. Let's be realistic for a minute. I think we can agree John Stones is probably the best center back for England, and he's going to be starting under any circumstance, no matter what. Agreed?
Yeah.
At the moment, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And then I think that goes quickly into the Harry Maguire, who has been John Stone's partner for the last two tournaments, where England, I think, respectively, reached the Euros finals and this World Cup semifinals. So do we, even though I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gio, maybe you have a different opinion, and
Right.
maybe what you were getting at before the podcast, Harry Maguire is going to be on the plane. There is no question about that. We may not want him to be on the plane, but he's on the plane.
Absolutely. I think he's on the plane. I think just his ability to no, just the fact that he's shown that there is improvement if there is time given and fair chance given. I think Southgate again. He's one of Southgate's favorites. He's been a Southgate staple. So I can't argue the fact that he's not going to be on that plane. It'd be very hard for him not to make it, even as poorly as he's played. He's been consistently called up. So yeah, no, I don't argue that. You know, love him, hate him, he's going to be on that plane.
So you would be in agreement with that, right? You would be in agreement
Oh,
with that?
100%, 100%.
Sorry, Ray, you would be in agreement with that.
Yeah, would agree as well.
Fair enough. So Harry Maguire, unfortunately, is back on the plane. Nice comfy seat. We all hate him. I think okay, let's move on to just settle the striker issue now. I have three other strikers here. In all likelihood, Gareth Southgate is going to take two strikers. Kane is going to be starting. Who is the correct understudy to Harry Kane going into Euro 2024? I have Ollie Watkins, Callum Wilson, and Ivan Toney. All three drastically different styles. And worst case is if Ivan Toney doesn't make it, he can at least bet on the tournament. So like there might be a win-win situation there for him, right? So who knows? Who knows? Again, that joke was loaded, ready, loaded. Everyone knows coming. But I would say if you were to pick, I think we put one of them has to be on the plane, but the other two you can put anywhere else. What's your first thought, I guess, on let's say Ollie Watkins, Ray?
I mean, you guys know how I feel about Ollie Watkins. I feel he's due for a move to a top six team, traditionally speaking. Unless, of course, Aston Villa make the Champions League or are in the talks of that. But that's for another time. But yeah, based on form, based on um, just the way they are, he's he offers something different to Kane for sure. We the way we've seen him play on the break for Aston Villa and just be there as a goal scorer. I know Callum Wilson and Ivan Toney can do that as well, but I feel like based on how his season's been going and how I predict his season will end, he's probably going to be comfortably in double digits in terms of goals. So, and for Callum Wilson, he has his injury problems. Ivan Toney will return to club football in January, so I'm not sure how he will be. So, personally, I think it should be Ollie Watkins that's going to be on the plane as well, understudy for Harry Kane in that striker role.
What about you, Gio? Would you agree?
I actually don't agree. Yes, he's been playing well, but I think kind of what England lacks is that if they're in trouble and they need someone to come off the bench and be that spark and say an individual player that can create something on their own and like score a fantastic goal. I think out and out skill wise, individual skill wise, taking on a player on one, um, you know, even on that fast break, chasing down the ball, I think Ivan Toney is better suited for that. Obviously, they want someone who can kind of be more cohesive in the system, and I think Ollie Watkins would be the guy. Even Callum Wilson would be ahead of Ivan Toney in that sense. But um, I guess if it was in Southgate's eyes, it would be one of those two guys. But in my eyes, if you need that spark off the bench, that individual talent that can kind of flip the script for you, I think Ivan Toney fits that build a little more. But again, if you're building a team, I think the other two kind of fall better onto that category. So I would actually put Ivan Toney in a last resort future option, unfortunately, because he hasn't played that much. Unless he comes in and comes out on a tear, then he's instantly back in that conversation. But I would put either Callum Wilson on the plane or Ollie Watkins on the plane and the other on a bubble spot, which in no particular order really matters to me because, again, they would be almost used in the last resort if only Kane decides to come off on his own. Because um, how can you really take that guy off?
No, it really
Yeah,
would be up to Kane. It would be like the LeBron
Yeah,
situation where he's going to sub himself out, and that's pretty much
exactly,
it.
exactly.
But I think here's what my thoughts are. I think Callum Wilson right now is in on the bubble where depending on how the rest of the season goes due to injury, he may make it because he does have a permanent goal record in the Premier League that's quite well. But he's been kind of fighting that position for Isak, which may seem as a tough option. Whereas Ollie Watkins is legitimately the only striker that's playing for Aston Villa, and they're playing very well. So I think as of today, if you snapshot it, he's on the plane. The question becomes for Ivan Tony. Here's my pitch to the both of you. Right now, I think he's last resort future option. I think I agree with you there. But there have been links, and this is again maybe my bias coming in, but there have been links directly for Ivan Tony to Arsenal. And if he does make that switch in January, which reports are indicating, then if he comes in, kind of takes that position, makes it his own, and is able to kind of make a separation where it takes Arsenal from here to here, takes them to the next level because of the ability as a striker and what I would argue a player that I don't have on this tier list, Eddie Nketiah offers or Gabriel Jesus offers. I think then he may come into that conversation by the end of the season. I don't see it now. It's unlikely, but I see the future. I see there's potential there in a multiverse situation that we all live in. I see that possibility. That's my take on that. Fair? Are you both fair with comfortable with that for that how we have set up, or would you place anyone differently?
Yeah, no,
I'm
I agree.
comfortable with that.
Okay,
I agree.
Comfortable with that. Yeah.
fair enough. So let's go to a little bit more of the other end of the pitch and talk about our center half issues. Right now, we have two. We only can take two more, gentlemen. There, in all likelihood, he's not. Gareth Southgate is not going to have 5 or 6 center backs going to the tournament. Right now, we have John Stones, and of course, we have Harry Maguire. So I'm going to read out some names, and we'll be able to go through your thoughts. We have Tamori,
Okay.
we have Tyrone Mings, we have Mark Gahey, we have Levi Caldwell, and I think that's and Eric Konsa. Those are the 5 different center backs. Only 2 more of them maximum could be on the plane. Is there a name that stands out from you that you feel like, you know what, this is my ride or die. This is the guy that I would want to see play instead of Harry Maguire with John Stones. Gio, what about you?
Um, when you pair someone with that, if you pair someone with John Stones, I would want someone who's a little stronger, a little bit more athletic, and kind of Tyrone Mings kind of fits into that build. He's not as well as a ball playing guy, but he does have that defensive ability in terms of strength, in terms of physicality. But on the other hand, you have Tamori, who's obviously been quite good this season. I don't know. He hasn't been one of Southgate's favorites. But I would love to see him on the plane. I think he's able to kind of do a little bit of both, and with the right pairing, I think he can kind of flourish.
I like
But
that call. I like that call. I do want to add in my
yeah,
apologies. I also have Lewis Dunk from Brighton. I apologize. I also have him on the.
you can just put him and
I'm
stop showing up because I don't think
I'm
that's the right
just
fit.
just
I don't
letting you
think
know.
that's the right fit. Hey, that's me. That's me. But
Fair
I
enough.
I really want to see Tamori at the tournament. I think he's really proven himself and he's kind of waited his turn and he's kind of earned his spot and earned that call up. You know, even well before now. But I think he should be on the plane.
What about you, Ray? What are your thoughts? Is there a name that screams out to you?
I guess I'll start off a little bit from the other way, just to make it easy to understand where I'm thinking, where I'm coming from. Mings, I do agree with what Gio said in terms of his profile, but he does have a long-term injury. I think he did his ACL early in the season, so he's likely not going to be featuring for the tournament. But Gehi, unfortunately, him and Dunk, I think it's just a little too early for them. They haven't been involved with the squad as much as I would have wanted them to. So yeah, I definitely would love to see Tamori more. And I guess dark horse there, Levi Cole. I think he can fit in that left center back position. Just
Agreed.
his ball playing ability. Um, Definitely can do that. He does lack a little bit of pace, but maybe we can supplement that with other fullbacks that support him. But apart from that, yeah, Tomori would be my shout. Cole would be my maybe my my second backup center back option, if that makes sense.
Fair. I see where you're both coming from, and I did also forget to mention Eric Dyer. Just because again, I just want to put someone that stopped showing up, and he should stop showing up. This should not continue.
Oh,
Um,
wholeheartedly agree with that one. Wholeheartedly
for
agree.
me, I agree with Mings in terms of injury, and that's the reason why for me I have Caldwell at the top of a bubble spot. And here's the reason why I've made some adjustments. Where right now I threw Mings, Mark Gahey, Lewis Dunk onto last resort, last future option. Levi Caldwell into a bubble spot, and on the plane Tamori. The reason why I like Caldwell is because of his left foot. Because if he's playing in the left center half role, getting the ball out in transition is a little bit more comfortable. I want to pitch you Dunk. I know, Gio, you kind of laughed that off, but the reason why, if you look at Brighton play phenomenally well with the ball, and he's the main reason for that. When they're breaking up from the back, most of the play comes from him. He's very comfortable in the ball. He's able to transition well as play in a left center half role. Um, Even though he's right-footed, has done it very well. So I think that if you don't have that left-footed of Caldwell, Harry Maguire is injured, and you want a little bit more experience, I think even though Tamori probably is on your, if you have cumulative stats of kind of what type of profile player he has, is probably a little bit better. But I think he might be a better fit beside John Stones because of that. Comfortable playing on the left hand side, a little bit more comfortable on the ball, brings you that aerial threat presence, better in the air, I would say, than Tamori. So I think that profile is as close to Maguire ish in the good ways, not the bad ways, in the good ways, as you can get
Mhm.
from this crop of center halves. So I would want to put him a little bit higher. Just that's just me. But right now, are you guys comfortable with the changes that I guess we've updated so far?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm
right
good
now
with
we have
that.
on the plane for center half as a key player John Stones. On the plane for center halves is McGuire, Tamori, and top of bubble is Caldwell.
Yeah.
Okay, fair
Agreed.
enough. So
Yeah.
Agreed.
let's talk about. I guess I want us to go with the right back position, and want to be able to zone in specifically on Kyle Walker. He's 31. I think he'll be 32 by the time the tournament starts. Uh, and he's kind of not, I would say, as consistent a player for City now as he was maybe a couple of years ago, where he may take some weeks off or not generally play as well, but arguably still, arguably the best right back in Premier League history as of time of recording right now. I don't think there'll be too much competition for that spot other than him, in my opinion. And one of the best. Does he settle in? And I think that's why it's interesting. Is do you play maybe a back three and have him there, or do you play him as a traditional fullback? Does he start in your starting 11? Would you feel? What are your thoughts on him? And where would you place him potentially on the tier list? Gio?
Um, I think for what he's done, I think solely based on his ability in terms of speed, and then in terms of uh obviously, he could potentially not be a starter, but using him in terms of matchups, I think is very crucial. Having that speed is going to be crucial. So you got to look at who you're up against. The speed on the left hand side is the list goes on. So with that being said, I think he is definitely on the plane. Um, if not a key player, I don't think he should be any lower than those two slots.
What
Completely
about you, Ray?
agree. Definitely, I actually would have put him as a key player. Makes the most sense for him to be the starting right back, just based off his history, his ability to, like you said, defend that left wing position well. And of course, he's been with the setup for so long that even though he is getting there in age, he's gonna have enough in the tank for the Euros, I think, to give them a good enough shift. And yeah, I think actually one of the key players on the plane I could agree as well, but I don't see anyone of the other right backs starting over him at this time.
That's wonderful. I would agree. I think he's a key player, and I think he's a shoe in to start. The question becomes for the other fullback positions. Let's deal, I guess, with the issue of the day right now. Is as of time of recording, in terms of who you would have probably first and second choice as a fullback position for England, neither of them are playing right now. They're oft injured. They're made of glass. Luke Shaw and Ben Chilwell. Given their injury history, if they are healthy, are they both on the plane, or do you bring maybe say like a Kieran Trippier to be able to play on that left hand side instead of one of them? What are your thoughts there? Because I think that will this decision will clearly kind of zone in what we potentially are going to do on the right back side.
I think if Luke Shaw was healthy, he'd be on that plane. I think Southgate, again, one of Southgate's favorites. He trusts him. Um, and again, I think when Luke Shaw is at his peak and he's able to make an overlapping run, he does. I feel he passes pretty well at his position. Yeah, I think he would be a lock if you know, obviously barring injuries, but I don't know when the timeline for him is to come back. When he does, I think he's going to be really pushing for that spot regardless, to try and re-secure that spot. But if he's healthy, I think he again is on that plane.
I agree. Luke Shaw would probably. I think he's supposed to be back in January or around the turn of the year. So I do expect him to, and especially for Man U, to play a lot of minutes on the left back position for the rest of the season. And I don't really see any problems with him being on the plane. Realistically, he will start if he's fit, even if he's half fit, just because you realistically don't want to put Trippier in that position. And to be honest, Chilwell, he's hot and cold. So I would just keep Luke Shaw as on the plane, and we can debate Chilwell and Trippier. I think actually, yeah, Chilwell. I'm just looking at it now. Potential return would be end of the year, probably around the same time as Luke Shaw as well. So depending on how his season goes, honestly, it's a bit toss up between him and Trippier just for that, for Trippier's versatility to cover both right back and left back positions. I would actually take Trippier as a player overall, so that he could, in case there's an injury either on the right or on the left, over Chilwell. Just because realistically, I wouldn't expect Luke Shaw not to play all games, full minutes, unless he gets injured. But yeah, that's my take there.
Fair enough. So you're thinking let's do Ben Chilwell as a bubble. Let's say above, maybe behind Levi Colwell. That's fair. We'll leave him there. Then you're saying from Trippier. Okay, here's my. This is the next conundrum that we have: is the right back position. England are blessed with a numerous, a plethora, as you would love to say, of options out of right fullback position. You have Ben White, you have Trent Alexander-Arnold, you have Rico Lewis, Reece James, and the aforementioned Kieran Trippier. Here's Gio. I'll go to you first. Here's my initial thought of what I would do. Trent has played one game for England in the midfield. I'm taking him as a midfielder if I'm taking him on this team. I'm not taking him as a right back. I think if he's not broken, I think Reece James, given his kind of what we've seen at his best, if he's able to get to that, I think he's on the plane. But the injury concern is the issue. The rest of them, Kieran Trippier, I also take as well because of the versatility. But Ben White, I don't know what he left the World Cup with some cloudy reasons. We're not 100% certain on there. And Rico Lewis is just too young. So that's how I would break it down personally. But Gio, you said you had some thoughts, but what do you think?
No. I actually, I'm pretty aligned with what you have to say. I think Ben White. I think just stop showing up, buddy. I think you're just too much of a pretty boy.
Hey.
Hey, am I wrong? Am I wrong?
I didn't say hey, stop it. You're wrong. I just said hey. Okay, that's all I did. Keep going.
And yeah, I think Kieran Trippier, what he can provide for, obviously providing balls into the box and providing kind of that dead ball specialist role. Again, with a plethora of players who can on this team, just keeps sort of their defenses, other teams' defenses on their toes. So I think he is on the plane, for sure. But yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what you had to say.
Right?
Yeah.
You see the changes
Kind
I
of is a
did here.
toss up.
Would you do anything differently? What are your thoughts?
I would leave it as it is. If it came down to that, just that right back position, I would probably pick Reece James over Trent. But if we are picking Trent as a midfielder, then I could see why that is the case. And Yeah, he could play as a right back if needed, but I don't think Southgate would do that realistically. If he has a fully fit Trippier and Walker, so yeah, I'm good with the way you have it right now. Ricky Lewis too young, and Ben White. I don't know what happens with him, but I mean I wouldn't be opposed to having him as a last resort, but I don't know what happened there, and it doesn't look like he's being picked. So yeah, realistically, that's good with me the way we have it right now.
I agree with that. We're going to have Ben White stop showing up because it seems like Gareth Southgate's kind of made that clear to him, at least what it feels like from my end. Because he's again the versatility where you could play him at center half, you can play him at right back. That seems like a natural fit going into a kind of a competition like this. If injuries occur, he's very comfortable on the ball. I would argue as a center half behind John Stones, he would be the best on the ball player amongst the rest of the team. But it's just there's something there, I guess, maybe communication, personality type that's not driving. Um, Maybe he's too pretty for it, as Gio said. Who knows? But I think let's go into here, continue the conversation with Trent as a midfielder. For me, I guess there's one of two ways that I would go as Gareth Southgate in terms of midfield. So we'll talk about these two players next. I would either have Trent and Jude playing a midfield three alongside Declan Rice, and Declan Rice for me is a key player, no questions about that. Or if you were being a little bit more fun, you're playing Declan Rice alongside Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden, and you don't play Foden out on the wing. I think realistically they're both on the plane, but I think those are potentially the two ways that he would go in terms of starting 11. For me, again, Declan Rice key player that puts Phil Foden on the plane. Would you disagree with any of those takes? Would you play maybe an England midfield three differently, and maybe when you want to talk with a different player at the same time? What are your thoughts? Let's start with you, Ray.
All right, so here's my thing. Right off the bat, this is gonna be so. You can put him at key player, of course. Declan Rice.
Mhm.
Realistically, and I'm just gonna give him his due, I guess, respect from the England side. Jordan Henderson is actually gonna be a key player, but I wholeheartedly disagree with that, and I don't think he should play at all. But I think he's gonna be Southgate sees him as a key player because of the fact that he continues to pick him, and he will feature in the tournament. Personally, what I would do is have Declan Rice, James Ward-Prowse, and Jude Bellingham as that three starting, and then we can switch it off with Conor Gallagher or Trent Alexander-Arnold. But that's personally for me. Jordan Henderson, yeah, I think he's gonna be. You could put him on the plane or key player. Realistically, the prediction is he's gonna be there, but I don't think he gets in there at all. Realistically, based on his, I guess, just form and technical ability compared to those guys. But yeah, Gio,
No, wait. You said James Ward-Prowse, not James Madison, just to be able to clarify.
James
Okay,
Ward-Prowse,
cool.
correct.
I want that on the record. Perfect. Okay, Gio, what are your thoughts? Lovely to hear this.
Okay,
Cool.
I agree with what Ray has to say in terms of Jordan Henderson. Absolutely don't like that he'll be there because he'll be
Exactly.
taking up the spot of a player that potentially could, exceed what he has ever done for his previous club at his new club, and is slowly getting, the minutes that he's always wanted. And obviously this could be a hot take for some, but I don't think it's a hot take. I think he deserves his flowers right now. Is a Mr. Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who has been crucial for the AC Milan midfield. So
Ooh.
that rotational piece, that backup option, I hate that he's not on this list. I would love for him to be on this list, and I would love for him to be even on the bubble spot. Um, you know, right behind Colwell. If not in front of Caldwell, because if he keeps this up, I think he's definitely in the talks. I'm not sure if he was called up to this
No,
call
he
up,
wasn't.
but I definitely deserve. No, I definitely think that was a snub. So my shout is Ruben Loftus Cheek. He left the poor club to join a better club. So hey, I think he deserves to be there. But no, I agree with what Ray had to say in terms of James Ward-Prowse is definitely an option there. But yeah, no, whatever Ray had to
Interesting.
say, I agree. I agree.
Okay, let's settle this down for first. Let's make this we're on the same page. Can we be in agreement that Phil Foden is on the plane?
Yes.
Yeah.
Phil Foden's on the plane. That's fair. That leaves us with midfielders. Right now, if we're taking Trent as a midfielder, you have Trent, Declan Rice, and Phil Foden as a midfield three, as well as Jude. So realistically, you have 4 midfielders. You're probably going to take 2 more, and that leaves us with as kind of a central midfielder. Okay, the Hendo spot, Henderson for me, he should stop showing up. 100%. Just stop it. That's where I have it now. And I think by the
He
time we
should,
get to
but
the
he's
no,
gonna
no,
be there.
I think
He's
by the
gonna
time of
be
the turn,
there.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. If you ask me today, if you sit me
He's
down in this
gonna-
chair right now, and you give me some truth serum right now, I don't believe he's going to be there. I
We
honestly
all
don't.
don't believe.
I don't
has
believe he's going to be
photos.
there. No. I don't. He can't. He can't be there. That's crazy. That's crazy. No, he's not going to be there.
He shouldn't.
Southgate
He shouldn't.
picks him.
Because
Southgate
he
picks
shouldn't
him
be there.
before-
Because what I said, Ruben Loftus-Cheek deserves to be there.
No.
If we were
think the
picking a team
Loftus
this
Cheek.
very moment.
I think Loftus Cheek is a decent shout, but I still don't think Loftus Cheek
It's a good
even
shout.
makes it. I don't think he makes
so
it either. But Henderson, can we put him in stop showing up? Because I don't. Even if I'm wrong, I'm okay being wrong with that because there's no. Realistically, for me, if you have these other players, because the other players that we have potentially are James Ward-Prowse, Conor Gallagher, Mason Mounts, and James Madison. I would take all of them over Jordan Henderson. There is not a question of a doubt. And I personally, my pick would be
No.
Sorry?
We agree
And
with
Calvin
that.
Phillips. Sorry.
We all agree.
We
Okay,
agree with that.
So then let's be on the same page. Let's live this
No,
life together.
but
We're
also-
predicting.
We're
Okay, no, but
predicting.
I don't know, but I don't think he's going to take Hendo. I don't think he's going to. I don't think it. Okay, if you both lock it in, we pick one more midfielder, we call it a day. I'm voting Jordan Henderson. Stop showing up.
I
That's
think
how I have it.
he's last resort future option.
I think this was his
If-
last round as in the England trip. This round of games right now.
Did
Ooh.
he feature in any of the games?
I have no idea. I'll be honest with you. I
Oh,
did not
you
watch the
don't
game
know.
that they tied today against whatever they played. I don't know. Don't care. Because at the end of the day,
Okay.
even a lot of players on this team right now, they're not going to be on the play. Nowhere close to
Okay,
it.
then
Some of them
let's
we have
put
on this
James
list,
Ward-
but still.
Prowse. Let's put James Ward-Prowse on a bubble spot.
And then where are
I
you
don't know
saying
if
you're
they'll
putting
I'm okay
Henderson?
with that.
Yeah.
Where are you playing? So, and then my other thing, James Ward-Prowse over James Madison, of what he's
I
done
think
for
James
Tottenham.
Madison will be on the plane.
James Madison's on the plane. I don't know if he'll get minutes after the World Cup,
Okay.
but I think what he's done for
Ward-Prowse
Tottenham
is my
so
bubble.
far kind of not guarantees him a spot. It kind of demands a spot for him, and
Okay.
you kind of can't leave him out of that conversation. So I think James Madison's on the plane.
Okay. So then what?
Madison on the plane.
Are we putting Henderson on the plane because you guys are crazy, or what? Are we doing that because
Can we
think
put him on a
Southgate-
bubble spot? Because it's just such a toss up. Because
Okay. I'm okay selling as bubble. Obviously, for me,
Fine.
again, stop showing up.
Fine with
Stop
me.
it. It's done. It's over. We're done. We're
although
done.
I think
We're
he'll
done.
be on the plane because
We're tired. No,
he
he's not
obviously
gonna.
has
He
photos.
can't. He can't be on the plane. He can't. This is crazy. Okay. And then for I guess Calvin Phillips, Mason Mount, Conor Gallagher. Realistically, we have one. We have how many midfielders? We have Madison, Phil Foden, potentially maybe same as a wing. You have Trent. You have who else am I missing? Jude, Declan Rice.
Can I just come in with a hot take here?
Yeah, go ahead. That's what this was for.
Conor Gallagher, Mason Mount, you can throw him in absolute last resort right now. Calvin Phillips, you can toss him in to stop showing up because he doesn't get minutes. He's not going to play. I would pick plethora of players over him. So let's just get that out of the way. We can speed up this process exponentially by just doing those three like that.
Would you agree with that, Ray?
See, I want to do that as well, Gio, but I don't think he will be. I think he has a shout still. He can be part of the last resort future
Who are we
option
talking about?
because
Who are we talking about?
Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips.
If Calvin Phillips is a last resort, I need a Mac to crop a photo of my boy Ruben Loftus-Cheek and slap him onto a bubble spot.
Luther,
Yes, Calvin Phillips does not deserve to be in this conversation.
But Ruben
right
hasn't
now.
made
Don't
the
disagree.
last two full rounds of England call-ups. That's why he's not on the list.
And that's
everyone here-
disrespectful, is what I'm saying.
I'm just
I
saying.
don't disagree.
I don't think. I'll be honest with you. I don't think Gareth Southgate gets the Serie A games in his TV package. That's what I believe. And the only
I think-
reason
I
why
think-
I think Tomori's
think-
on the list is because he doesn't want to get called out for something, you know? So
I
he
think
has to
once
put somebody.
AC Milan, I think once AC Milan advances into the next round of Champions League, I think his eyes will be more peeled. But again, I
If
would
they
love
make it into the
to
next
see
round of
Sancho.
Champions League.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
be
no,
honest.
They will.
I don't see any situation where Loftus-Cheek is on the plane. There's no situation for me. I think we're picking from these players here. That's me. I love the Shell. I love the Shell. Big up for the Shell. Love to see what he's done so far this season, but I think it's a little bit too far. Okay, so we'll leave at this as this. Now the question comes where we're working on, I guess, more of the winger positions. One argument is that we've already set up at least one of them with Phil Foden being on the plane because traditionally when he's played for England, he has been a winger. And that's where he started out, even in the World Cup on the right-hand side, before he was taken, where I guess we're going to start off with Bukayo Saka. He is, for me, the third best player for England going into this tournament. I think you have Harry Kane. I think you have Jude Bellingham. And then you have to think of Saka. Those are the first three names on the team sheet. And then probably, depending on position, you might have Stones, Declan Rice, those. So I think he is a key player.
Absolutely.
Would we all agree? Third on the list.
No, 100%.
Beautiful. So that locks up one right-hand side position. And if we have Foden, maybe as a midfielder, maybe not. Realistically, that leaves maximum 3 more, maybe 2 more. Players I have, Jared Bowen, Raheem Sterling, Cole Palmer, Jack Grealish, and Marcus Rashford.
Gio, go ahead.
Jared Bowen is a last resort.
I would agree with that.
I think you have to bank. No, I think Jared Bowen really has to bank that Rashford is busy doing other things, maybe fighting his brother's case. But
No.
unless that happens, my boy is making it.
Fair enough.
Rashford is making it.
Adding on to that.
Ray, go ahead.
Adding on to that, can we just get Cole Palmer? I'm sorry, I don't know why I have to do this to you, but Mac included you in 2 of our tier lists so far. Just stop showing up, brother. For now.
Stop showing up.
It's just early.
Okay. I put him in last resort.
I wish you the best, but honestly, with the quality that England have right now, stop showing up for the moment.
He's on the current England team right now. That's why I have him here. Preface that.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to throw him shade. Just like some of the other players. But still very funny. So I enjoy it. Great take, lovely. So I think then the decision comes. We're picking between 2 of Jack Grealish, Marcus Rashford, and Raheem Sterling. I'll ask you a question. Do you think right now, thus far this season, who's had a better season, Raheem Sterling or Marcus Rashford?
Oh, that's tough.
I think it's easy. One, I think hasn't scored in the Premier League, if I remember correctly. It's been struggling in form. Raheem Sterling arguably has been a lackluster Chelsea side in some cases. Their best offensive threat. For me, right now, if we're deciding who's on the plane, it's Sterling. I think the reason why he hasn't made the last couple runs, Southgate said, is due to injury and form. But if we're basing off that, I think it's clear. I think for me, between the two, I think Jack Grealish is on the plane. I think in all likelihood he starts on the left-hand side. I think above maybe Foden or him, that's between those two in that position. I think that's your starting 11. And then you might have Sterling either come off the bench and Rashford is a bubble. If he gets in better form by the end of the season, which is possible, he could do it. But as of right now, I wouldn't want to see him touch a blade of grass on the pitch unless he's playing better.
No,
but he's not.
Rashford's making it. If I'm going to be completely honest, even though he's been playing bad, I think Rashford makes it. I believe Rashford makes it.
I think so as well. I don't know. I don't know what Grealish has done so far, so I don't really. I haven't flipped basically. I don't see how Grealish plays too often, but Rashford is that impact sub that will be used by Southgate a lot, I think, and that's why he will realistically be on the plane as well. Sterling is actually a toss-up because yes, he's been playing well, and I hope that he does get on the plane and eventually play for England this year. But playing for Chelsea, who don't have much of an offensive threat, he's the main option, and that's why he's actually has goal contributions. I do like him, but it's a toss-up between him and and Grealish, in my opinion. I think Rashford ends up going. My
Yeah,
opinion.
I think to my point earlier in terms of players that can kind of flip the script. I think a player to keep the ball. Yes, Jack Grealish is going to keep you the ball, and he's going to recycle the ball as he does at Man City. He comes in and he's able to recycle the ball constantly to to kind of spread their defense, spread their midfield. Spread the other team's midfield a little thinner. But in terms of a player that can kind of change the game again and is looking for redemption, I think has something to prove. I think it's Rashford. That's going to event- eventually and inevitably make the squad. I think the Man U form um, will likely look better going into the new year, and hopefully it's because of his contributions. But I think even of the past, there's only I can only really think of one other time where Rashford didn't make the squad because of his form. Um, but I think it partially had to do with injuries. But again, another mainstay for Southgate, whether it be a starter, whether it be on the bench, has been Marcus Rashford. So I will say Marcus Rashford makes the team.
Here, let me give you my pitch. Again, I don't necessarily disagree because I could see a situation where all three of them make it. To be honest, because if he does view Foden as a central midfield option, the all three of them could potentially be on the plane. My reasoning for Jack Grealish as probably the number one option is because when it comes down to it, whenever there's a big game for Manchester City, you don't see Jeremy Doku on the pitch. It's Jack Grealish on the pitch because Pep trusts him more, has that built-in equity with him, and it has kind of shown the goods. Similarly, Gareth Southgate, going into the World Cup, a lot of people were calling for Jack Grealish to start over Raheem Sterling. That was very much a consistent theme, and even into the previous Euros, where he was always an option for Gareth Southgate, and he always ended up being in use, and he was always the first sub off the bench for an attacking rotation. So I think there has been a lot of built-in equity there where he's going to be on the plane for sure. I could very easily see him starting. And then the decision comes between Sterling and Rashford. Sterling has done more internationally without a shadow of doubt over Rashford. He has more goal contributions. He scored more goals. He's been a part of a starting 11 team that's gone further in a tournament. Rashford hasn't done it. Even though I would say if you look at last year's form, that's the real separator. So there's only been one real year I would argue that Rashford's been better than Sterling. That's my rationale, but I think what may be the easiest way. So let's put two of them on the plane and one on the bubble spot. So I think let's vote it if you guys know what I mean. So if you rank one, two,
Yeah.
three, I have I have Grealish, Sterling, and then Rashford. Ray, what do you have?
Rashford, Grealish, Sterling.
Gio?
I have Grealish, Rashford, Sterling.
So I think that means if we're weighted out correctly, is that we have Rashford and Grealish on the plane, and Sterling is in the bubble.
Bubble spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would we say that's fair?
Because let me just toss something into that mix. Because here's my thing. Here's a hot take, whatever the case may be. If you're looking for another tap-in merchant, then yeah, bring Sterling. I don't think he's really gonna turn the game on his head like that. I think based on sheer quality that's on the plane that we have on the plane, I think offense can come from a vast majority of players. And again, you have the ultimate tap-in merchant in Harry Kane. And then if you bring Callum Wilson, you have another tap-in merchant. So what do you need a third tap-in merchant for? That's why you bring a man like Rashford, or obviously that's why you have Bukayo Saka that can provide for those tap-in merchants. Yeah, no, that's it.
Fair enough.
My only thing is not a lot of pace. And Rashford just offers that just raw pace. Other than you could say Saka for sure, but he's more so just the way he's been used is more so to draw players over, and then you just overload that one side with the switch. So having Rashford just makes sense for me in that position. Sterling, it's a hit or miss depending on how he finishes the season. I of course would like him to be there because I think he still has the quality to perform probably his last tournament for England. But yeah, it's a toss up, and the bubble spot for me makes sense at the moment.
Fair enough. Okay, so this I think we've gone through our 23 players. Is before we wrap up, any individual changes that quick off the thought that you would want to do differently from what you see here? Anything that comes out to you, screams out to you? Again, for me, my big one again, I don't see Henderson as even a bubble option. For me, he's stopped showing up. Maybe I'm living in a fantasy world, and to be honest, I think the only difference that I would have, at least as of right now, in terms of time of recording, I would actually have Connor Gallagher as that bubble spot, depending on the team, kind of that engine like midfielder that offers a different type of versatility there. Where Trent, I think Declan Rice, I think those are much more, I would say, stationary midfielders. They're not going to apply as much of a press versus Gallagher would have. So for me, I would actually have Gallagher a little bit higher because of that reason. But because we have Hendo there, we don't. Um, I guess, is there any other individual shout from your end? Maybe a change that we could still make, or would you want to make, or what are your thoughts there? Anything that screams out to either of you?
Again, I actually kind of agree with you on the Conor Gallagher position, and obviously this is going to be solely based on performance, but I think um I I don't know. If it's a hot take, it's a hot take, but I think Ivan Tony again has a very good chance of squeezing into that bubble spot, and I think he has a lot to prove. Yes, but I think on the team that obviously is screwing for some offense, and I think he's going to be able to kind of show what his value is. And again, if he does make that move in January, I think will better improve his case because if he's already linking up with the Declan Rice, with the Bukayo Saka, who knows what they can do, on the international stage. So that is my shout for him on a bubble spot. Obviously, granted, if there's a move, granted on his form coming back from such a long, you know, miss from the game.
Fair enough. Ray, what about you?
For me, then let's just make the switch. My personal opinion is James Ward-Prowse just makes sense. Either him or Ruben Loftus-Cheek in that center midfield position next to Rice behind Jude Bellingham. But realistically, I think I'm comfortable with switching Conor Gallagher and James Ward-Prowse in their positions on our tier list at the moment, just because I don't think he will. I think he's more so of a last resort, and Conor Gallagher has featured recently. So he could be like like a 50-50 for Southgate in that position. So I'm okay with that if you guys are as well.
Lovely. Okay, we'll make that change. James Ward-Prowse has gone down. Colin Gallagher, congratulations. You are now on the bubble spots. But I think that concludes our list. We'll put it out online. People can give your thoughts, see where we were wrong, see where we went right. I think that could be fun. But I guess, Ray, do you want to wrap us up here?
Yeah, this concludes our podcast for today, guys. If you guys like what you heard, please like and subscribe to us on our social medias. That's at house_of_footy. If you have any comments, suggestions, or general banter, get in touch with us via email, houseoffooty@hotmail.com. Next time you hear from us will be Friday when we preview match week 13 of the Premier League. Of course, the Premier League is back this weekend, boys. So we'll definitely be in touch with that. But until then, guys, thank you for joining us tonight, Mac.
It's coming home, boys.
Thank you, Gio.
Watch out for my boy Ruben Loftus-Cheek, boys.
See you guys soon.